Well, hello. Welcome to the Currency Recap. Joe with you here. It is Thursday, the 10th of April. Good to see you out. I'm going to talk about some stuff. You guys know how to take responsibility for it. First thing I want to talk about is our 15th annual Maverick Trading Summit. It's coming up in a couple of weeks. Just want to make sure we get that last-ditch effort to get those last couple of seats filled if you guys want to go for it. It's going to be fun. We're going to discuss how AI can help us make us better traders. I'm going to talk about the meaningful news of the day. I'll break things down technically, and if I've got trades to share, I'll do it.
Disclaimer. This video was created for professional Forex and crypto traders. Maverick Currencies is a proprietary trading firm that employs professional traders around the world. Our traders trade firm capital and keep 70 to 80% of profits they generate. All trades and analysis in this video are for professional traders only. If you are interested in becoming a professional Forex and currency trader for Maverick, click the Apply button in the video description. Let's break down what happened today.
As we move into the market analysis, we pretty much just got the opposite of what we ended with yesterday. Let's go straight into the news. The U.S. markets, they did part back after yesterday's massive surge to the upside. And part back quite a bit, a decent percentage, but nowhere near what we saw yesterday. It could be just a massive short cover rally. However, it really didn't give us an advantage when it comes to the charts. We'll get there in a second. The U.S. CPI lower with jobless claims in line with expectations. Outside of all this chaos and fun, the Fed's getting that soft landing that they wanted to see in the U.S. economy. Employment is still steady. We're seeing lower inflation outside of what could happen with some of these tariffs moving forward. But I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get there. How do we finish overall? Well, the yen, pretty much flat, dollar down, franc up quite a bit, 2.62%. Now, folks, I think the dollar's move had a lot to do with some of the rates I've been seeing. When the 10-year was met with a lot of optimism, it pushed it up about 4.2, 4.3. And even today, folks, a big follow-through in the 30-year. So a lot of activity when it comes to bonds, which I think is probably pushing the dollar down today. Euro up a little bit. Pound continues to slide. More of a bearish chart now. CAD down, Aussie down, but the Kiwi managed to hang in there. We'll take a look at those charts. So how do we finish? Well, the S&P down about 3.5%. It was up a whole heck of a lot more than that yesterday. So it's very volatile still, and it's really not giving us much. World index kind of following suit. Crypto down a bit. Gold had a pretty good move to the upside. I imagine that's kind of, hey, anybody that was a little bit reactionary to yesterday's announcement, it's still a flight into something safe. Oil down again, 3.95. It's got its own problems, and a lot of them are political, that is for sure. So let's see how Bitcoin did. Ethereum down 9%, Bitcoin down, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin all down, but after a incredibly large surge yesterday. So where does that put us? I still have us at a -3, folks. It really didn't do much. This is a reaction and then a counteraction. We'll see. We've got some more days coming up, but let's just jump straight into the chart. So if you really take a look at it, it was a big, huge candle, very big, very large volume, all sorts of great stuff, but it doesn't do anything for us. It still is at that resistance at the the 5,500 here. So, well, what do? Well, we gapped down, we traded lower and came back up, and we'll see. I mean, this is a inside day, so this is a pregnant bear. Now, this is usually supposed to follow through with another move to the downside. All things notwithstanding, now we'll have to see where the reaction goes over the next few days. And indeed, if we actually make another push back up here, this is the only point that I'm going to be a little bit more confident or comfortable putting something on to the bull side. It is kind of a bummer to have some of your bearish trades get wiped out with a big single blow, but that's how these markets move. The largest bull moves will be in bear markets, and that was definitely one of the largest ones I've seen. So it's got to kind of calm itself down to see if we can't create a little bit more consistency or find something that we can trade. So let's get into our economic reports. And this is what I was talking about, folks. So this quietly came across there. So we had that 10-year bond auction met with some pretty good purchasing up to 4.44 there. And then this came in today, but take a look at the 30 here, 4.26, 4.824. So there is definitely interest in the bond side of things. I don't know if that's a flight to safety or a little bit more caution, but once again, a lot of activity there, which is probably the majority of the reason why I think the dollar slid today. So with that, folks, let's just go ahead and jump into the currencies themselves and see what we got. First off, let's start with the yen. You could see that it just kind of consolidated. We're seeing a lot of situations where once you get this big move to the downside and then you get a little bit of a subsequent move that just kind of evens itself out, it's still kind of in this sideways trend. It was pretty easy for me to give this kind of a zero outlook. However, I do see a little bit of a descent here, and what it is a little bit lower on this aspect and a little bit lower here. So if it rolls over and starts to continue past that support level, I got it at a -1. However, if it just decides to consolidate, let me get a better looking box here and stay within this channel, then I can keep it as 0. So I've got it at a -1, but I could totally see a 0. The only reason is I really think it might just kind of continue to leak a little bit lower based on kind of cooling off after this reaction. It's just my 2 cents. Doesn't mean it will happen. Speaking of reactions, well, here you go. Well, this is our big surge up going into the end of last week, and then boom, right here, it just kind of falters off and falls apart. It's still within a support level. Let's take a look at this one on the daily. I don't usually do this. I like to focus on the velocity, but you could see it's really starting to break down. So we'll have to see how far the dollar's going to sink here. But you can see on the velocity, pretty easy to see it's actually breaking the support level. I actually kept it at a -2. I've got it here negative. This is negative. It's just this huge reaction. I wouldn't be surprised to see it consolidate or one more bounce before it goes down, before I can call it a full -3. The franc is just kind of, I think it's taking advantage of pretty much all of this. I like the pattern, I'll tell you that. So I like the franc here. Nice little level here where it's had its, it's volatile a little bit, but it is thinking like it wants to push ahead. And to tell you the truth, folks, it doesn't have to for me to lean on it as one of the stronger currencies. If it could just kind of stay within those 3 lines I drew over the next little while, as things like the pound continues weaker, we'll see here in a second, or the dollar continues to slide, I'm completely fine using the franc as my stronger currency. Let's take a look at the euro. The euro just kind of consolidated. It slipped a little bit lower. It's in kind of a wider range. I decided to keep it at a 0 there. Really not interested in it. Well, it's just a higher high here and a higher low. So it's just expanded its range, but it's back up into a sideways motion. But the pound itself just seems to continue to bleed. So the pound happens to be one of my favorites on the weak side, that and the dollar. So a little bit of a breakdown here. It's just sliding a little bit. But if it continues to show a little bit of weakness, we could take advantage of that. Let's take a look at the CAD. CAD's very similar to some of those sideways currencies. I decided to keep it also at a -1, and it was just this slip here and a little bit of a break of a support there as it moves a little bit lower. You could see that the RSI has slipped below the 50 mark. Okay, 0, -1, whatever. It doesn't matter, but I'm not really rushing out to use it against anything. But I'm going to keep an eye on it. Let's move to the Aussie. The Aussie seemed to have a reactionary bounce. You'll see the Kiwi did the same thing, but it's stabilizing. So I just said, hey, you know what? I don't know if it's going to continue, why it sets a higher low. I'll draw what I'm saying, but I do like how this broke. So it came from this. I'd like to see it bounce here, and then I could be very comfortable giving it a +1, +2. But right now, I'm just going to keep it at a 0. Just because the reaction that it had kind of pushed it right out of its downtrend. Let's take a look at the Kiwi, and you can see it did the exact same thing. So I do like it. In fact, I like the Kiwi a little bit more because it seems to be a little bit higher above that first level. So it's showing a little bit more strength. And yeah, I got an RSI above the 50, but it's not too high. So I also kept it at a 0. But if this could actually start to move above here, then we could turn it up to a +1, right? So since we're here, let's go ahead and take a look at our cryptos. A couple of them are showing some strength and a couple aren't. This is Bitcoin, and I like it because it seems to be wanting to pivot here. I know it's a little early yet, but if I could get that pivot, right, we got a higher high here, right, double bottom there, I'm happy. It's starting to show some strength here, a little bit of a turn on the RSI. So I gave it a +1. Which I'm fine with, but I do think it's going to run into a little bit of resistance up in this area. Well, let's take a look at Bitcoin Cash. This is also +1. You can see it's almost identical to the same chart. A little bit higher highs here. I like this is already pivoting. It broke above a resistance, but this is going to be a level that it's got to work with. However, this is a move that we can play, right? And we just play from this point to this point. It's a pullback. Risk rewards, if it all works out, it works out. Now the other two, not so much. I didn't really like them. I put them both actually at negatives. Below on the RSI here when it comes to Ethereum, it did set that high, but it's right back down to these levels. It didn't really revisit this area here. And then Litecoin itself, well, actually it's showing a little bit more of a consolidation than when I first looked at it. RSI is flat here. You can go ahead and give Litecoin a 0. I'm going to keep it at a -1 for now. But they could emerge. Once again, we'll see what happens over the next day or so. So this is my scoring as of today. You could see the francs just hang in there really strong. The pound and the dollar getting weak. The yen just kind of, everything else is just kind of flat. I do think things are going to change quite a bit over the next couple of days. So just keep an eye on it for now. So possible trades wise, it's going to be pretty much obvious. I'm looking for the franc, pound, and the dollar kind of against each other. Let's take a look at them. So I'm going to start with the obvious, and this is the US dollar versus the franc, and we might have missed it. It's slipped a little bit here. It looks like it's gaining some momentum. That's fine. You can wait for these to bounce. However, another one that might be kind of interesting is the Kiwi dollar. But it's moved a little higher. I'd like to see more corrections on some of these that are on both sides of the spectrum when it comes to strongest versus weakest. Let's take a look at the pound franc. This one was a little bit more interesting because it's not quite there. This might stabilize, but if the pound continues to slide or the franc just kind of stays where it's at, I think this might be a better trade outside of the far right and the far left. I like the pound franc here. Might be a little bit better of a trade. But those are kind of where I'm at. We'll take a look at one more that I thought was interesting. This is the CAD franc. So in the CAD showing a little bit of weakness. You can see the franc is also slipping. And the majority of these trades, the pound franc, CAD franc, is because of the franc strength. We will need to see both the CAD and the pound continue to stay weak or just not bounce. And these might come to fruition. So just a couple of trades to think about if you guys are looking for potential candidates. So today we see a reactionary move to yesterday, which was also a reactionary move. These aren't quite the markets you want to be out pushing buttons and throwing money at. It can be fun. However, you can learn a whole heck of a lot based on what moves and why and what caused it. Still seeing more reactionary movement than trading here. That's obvious. I think that'll kind of play itself out, but I'm starting to see a little bit more of sustainability. Something like the franc continues to just hang in there, and I think it's kind of that flight to safety. Based on what's going to react and what's not going to react. And so we are starting to see some consistency emerge. So keep an eye on that. But just be aware this isn't where you make the majority of your money. Always follow your plan. Play relative strength and weakness, proper position sizing. Even if in light of playing some of these volatile trades here, just be aware of what you're trying to do and be mindful of your overall exposure. All right, folks. Thanks for joining me, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye, everybody.